dive into today's episode, I just want to remind you to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. It helps us grow, reach more amazing learners like you, and keep bringing you fresh and fun content every week. So don't forget, like, subscribe, and let's keep this journey going strong. Hello, wonderful idiom aficionados, and a very enthusiastic welcome back to another captivating episode of Idiom Insights. I'm Emma, your dedicated guide on this linguistic journey, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with you again, ready to explore the fascinating meanings and origins of some more common yet incredibly expressive English phrases. It's always such a joy and a genuine pleasure to share this learning adventure with all of you as we continue to navigate the rich and often surprising tapestry of the English language.
And I'm Jack, your co-host and keen idiom investigator, always eager to help shed some more light on the colorful expressions that make English so dynamic, interesting, and sometimes, let's be honest, a little bit tricky. It's truly fantastic to be back in the Idiom Insights studio, Emma, and a massive hello to all our amazing listeners tuning in from every conceivable corner of the globe. Thank you for once again joining us for another session of dedicated idiomatic exploration and discovery.
It's always a highlight of my week, Jack. It really is. Today, we've carefully curated a selection of 4 incredibly useful and particularly vivid idioms that you'll undoubtedly encounter in everyday English conversations, in films, books, and online. Understanding these specific phrases will not only significantly boost your comprehension skills, but also provide you with more natural, nuanced, and expressive ways to communicate your own thoughts, feelings, and observations. These carefully chosen phrases cover a wonderful range of situations. Everyone getting a chance to shine, facing up to consequences, the intriguing process of changing one's mind, and the art of speaking spontaneously.
A truly excellent and wonderfully varied mix for our listeners today, Emma. These are definitely idioms that, once understood and used correctly, can really add significant character, depth, and a touch of native speaker flair to any conversation. So, without further ado, here are the 4 idioms we'll be diving into in this exciting episode of Idiom Insights. First on our list is a well-known proverb suggesting that everyone, absolutely everyone, will have a moment of success or good fortune eventually. Every dog has its day. Second, we have an idiom for accepting the often unpleasant consequences of your actions. Face the music. Third, there's a phrase for changing your opinion or feelings about something or someone, sometimes quite unexpectedly. Have a change of heart. And finally, we'll look at an expression for speaking spontaneously, completely without preparation, off the cuff.
Those are all fantastic and very, very common idioms, Jack. Each one paints a remarkably clear picture and is used with considerable frequency, so truly understanding them will be incredibly beneficial for our listeners as they engage in English conversations and encounter these phrases in various forms of media. You might even notice that one of these sounds somewhat similar to an idiom we discussed in a recent episode, but rest assured, it has a slightly different, very specific nuance that we'll be sure to explore in detail.
An excellent and very pertinent point, Emma. The English language is indeed full of such subtle yet important distinctions, which is what makes it so rich. And before we delve into the fascinating intricacies of our first idiom, a quick and sincere request from both of us here at Idiom Insights headquarters. If you're finding these episodes valuable and genuinely helpful for your English learning journey, and if you enjoy our explorations into the world of idioms, please take a brief moment to subscribe or follow our podcast on your preferred listening platform.
Yes, absolutely. Subscribing is undoubtedly the best way to ensure you don't miss any of our future idiom adventures and further linguistic discoveries. And if you're feeling extra supportive and generous, a like or a positive rating on your podcast platform truly helps other English learners discover idiom insights and join our growing community. We are so incredibly grateful for your engagement and continued support. It really does keep our own enthusiasm and motivation soaring high.
It genuinely makes a massive difference to us and to the podcast's visibility. Thank you all so much for being an integral part of our ever-growing Idiom Insights community. Right then, Emma, are you ready and eager to tackle our first idiom, which sounds quite optimistic and encouraging for everyone involved?
Let's absolutely do it, Jack. Our first idiom for this insightful episode of Idiom Insights is, every dog has its day.
Every dog has its day. Now, this is a very well-known and often quoted saying. It certainly sounds like it means everyone gets a chance eventually. Perhaps a moment in the spotlight, even if they're not usually successful, noticed, or particularly fortunate. Is that the core idea, Emma?
You've captured the essence of it perfectly, Jack. The proverb, every dog has its day, means that everyone, no matter how unlucky, overlooked, or seemingly insignificant they may appear to be, will eventually experience a moment of success, good fortune, triumph, or recognition. It strongly suggests that good luck, in one form or another, comes to everyone at some point in their lives.
So it's a deeply encouraging and inherently optimistic phrase, often used to comfort or motivate someone who is feeling down, disheartened, or unsuccessful, essentially reminding them that their time for success, happiness, or a positive turn of events will indeed come. For instance, if an athlete has been struggling for a long time, perhaps facing numerous defeats, but keeps training diligently, a supportive friend might say, "Don't give up. Every dog has its day, and your moment of glory will come."
Precisely, Jack. That's a perfect application. Or consider this. If a small, often underestimated underdog team unexpectedly wins a major championship against a much stronger opponent, commentators might exclaim, "Well, every dog has its day. What a fantastic and well-deserved victory for them." It acknowledges that even those not typically favored or expected to win can and do achieve remarkable success. It's fundamentally about the eventual, almost inevitable, turning of fortune's great wheel.
It has a lovely, rather democratic and egalitarian feel to it, doesn't it? The idea that success isn't just reserved for the privileged, the perpetually lucky, or the consistently successful, but that absolutely everyone gets their moment in the sun, so to speak. But why dog specifically, Emma? It's an interesting choice of animal.
That's a good question. The dog part of the proverb is widely thought to refer to how dogs were viewed in earlier historical periods, often as lowly, common, or even somewhat contemptible animals, not held in the same high regard as they often are today. So the underlying idea is that even the most humble, ordinary, or overlooked individual, represented by every dog, will eventually have their period of good fortune, achievement, or triumph. That's its day. It powerfully emphasizes that luck and success can come to anyone, regardless of their current status or past misfortunes.
That explanation makes a lot of sense and clarifies the historical context. So, to give another example, if a struggling, perhaps unknown artist finally gets a major gallery show and sells all their paintings after enduring years of obscurity and rejection, that would be a very clear and poignant example of their day finally arriving with a flourish.
Exactly, Jack. It's precisely that long-awaited, often hard-earned, and deeply satisfying moment of significant success or unexpected good fortune.
Okay, so every dog has its day essentially means that everyone, sooner or later, will have a period of notable success or good fortune. Are you ready to hear how Mia and Mark use this hopeful and encouraging proverb in their conversation?
I certainly am. Let's listen in. I wonder who they might be encouraging with this proverb, or perhaps whose unexpected success they might be acknowledging.
Mark, I was talking to our old friend David yesterday. You know, he's been trying to get his small online business, that little craft shop, off the ground for years now. And goodness, he's faced so many frustrating setbacks and bitter disappointments along the way. He sounded quite understandably disheartened and a bit lost when we spoke.
Oh, David and his online shop. Yes, I know he's poured his absolute heart and soul into it, investing so much time and energy, but it's been a real persistent struggle for him to gain any significant traction in the market and actually make a consistent profit. It must be incredibly tough to keep going, to maintain that motivation when you're not seeing much in the way of tangible success.
It really, really is. He was actually saying he's starting to seriously wonder if he should just give it all up, cut his losses, and look for a regular, more stable job. But then, Mark, just as he was telling me all this, expressing his doubts, he got an email. Apparently, a very famous lifestyle influencer, someone with literally millions of followers, had randomly discovered his website, absolutely loved his unique, handmade products, and had posted a glowing, enthusiastic review and a direct link to his shop.
You're kidding me? An influencer with millions of followers just like that? That's utterly incredible, a real game changer. What happened then? Did it actually make a tangible difference to his business?
a huge, almost unbelievable difference. David said his website traffic just exploded almost instantaneously. Orders started flooding in like crazy, and he's been completely, though happily, overwhelmed with new business and customer inquiries ever since. After all those difficult years of intense struggle and near despair, he's finally seeing real, substantial success. It just goes to show, doesn't it? Every dog has its day. His immense hard work, dedication, and unwavering perseverance finally paid off in a truly big and transformative way.
That was a truly wonderful and very illustrative example, wasn't it? Mia used "every dog has its day" perfectly to describe how their friend David, after enduring years of relentless struggle and numerous disappointments with his fledgling business, finally achieved a sudden, unexpected, and very significant breakthrough due to an unforeseen piece of incredibly good fortune.
Exactly, Jack. The idiom perfectly captured the central idea that even someone who had been unlucky or unsuccessful for a prolonged period eventually had their well-deserved moment of triumph, success, and widespread recognition. It powerfully highlighted the hopeful, encouraging, and optimistic nature of this timeless proverb.
It's a very common and wonderfully optimistic saying, one that offers a little bit of hope to everyone.
It certainly is. So the next time you or someone you know is feeling particularly down or discouraged about a perceived lack of success or progress, remember the hopeful and enduring wisdom of the proverb, "Every dog has its day." Their time might be just around the corner.
And we'd absolutely love to hear if you've seen an example of every dog having its day in your own life or in the lives of those around you. Please do share your inspiring stories and anecdotes in the comments section below this episode.
That's a great idea, Jack. Let's move on now to our second important idiom in this episode of Idiom Insights. This one is all about the often uncomfortable process of facing consequences.
Our second idiom for today, and it's a very useful one, is face the music.
Face the music. This expression immediately sounds like you have to listen to something, perhaps something rather unpleasant or critical. What exactly does it mean to face the music, Jack?
It does indeed often involve something decidedly unpleasant, Emma. To face the music means to accept full responsibility for something you have done wrong, or for a poor decision you've made, and consequently, to accept the criticism, negative feedback, or punishment that inevitably follows. It essentially means to confront the unpleasant consequences of your actions head-on, rather than trying to avoid them, deny them, or blame someone else.
So it's fundamentally about accountability, about owning up to your actions and accepting the negative outcome of your mistakes or bad decisions. For example, if an employee makes a serious error, perhaps a miscalculation in a report that costs the company a significant amount of money, they will eventually have to face the music and explain themselves clearly to their boss, and possibly accept some form of disciplinary action or repercussion.
Precisely, Emma. That's a very clear example. Or if a student is unfortunately caught cheating on an important exam, they will undoubtedly have to face the music when they are called to the principal's office. They have to confront the stark reality of their wrongdoing and accept whatever punishment is deemed appropriate. The idiom strongly implies that the consequences are, at this point, unavoidable, and it's simply time to deal with them directly and responsibly.
It certainly sounds like it's often a situation one would much rather avoid if possible, but you intrinsically know you have to go through with it. The music in this idiom isn't pleasant or melodious at all. It metaphorically represents the unpleasant, unwelcome repercussions. The origin of this phrase is a bit unclear, shrouded in some mystery, but one prominent theory suggests it comes from the military. In this context, a soldier being dismissed in disgrace would be drummed out of the regiment, literally having to face the music of the drums as they were publicly shamed and expelled.
That's a very plausible and evocative origin, Emma, effectively capturing the sense of a formal, often public, and usually quite serious reckoning. It's fundamentally about not running away from, or trying to hide from, the negative results of what you've done. It often requires a certain amount of courage, integrity, and personal strength to truly face the music.
Indeed, it does. So, for another example, if a prominent politician is involved in a damaging scandal, and the evidence against them is substantial and overwhelming, they will eventually have to face the music, perhaps by resigning from their position, issuing a public apology, or facing a formal investigation.
Exactly, Emma. The time for evasion, denial, or making excuses is well and truly over. The consequences are there to be met.
So to face the music means to bravely and responsibly accept the unpleasant consequences of your actions or mistakes. Are you ready to hear Mia and Mark use this rather stern idiom in their conversation?
Let's listen in with interest. I wonder who has to confront some unwelcome repercussions in their particular story this time.
Mia, remember last week when I accidentally, and very foolishly, sent that highly confidential company email, the one about the new product launch, to the wrong client list? It contained some extremely sensitive pricing information that absolutely shouldn't have been shared externally. I felt sick to my stomach when I realized what I'd done.
Oh yes, Mark. I remember you were really worried and quite agitated about that. That was a pretty significant and potentially costly mistake. What happened? Did anyone important find out about the leak?
Well, unfortunately, and perhaps inevitably, yes. One of the clients who received it in error, a rather disgruntled one it seems, forwarded it directly to their main competitor, who then, of course, contacted our sales director to complain quite vociferously about our pricing strategy being leaked. It's caused a bit of a diplomatic and commercial mess, to put it mildly.
Oh dear, Mark. That sounds very serious indeed. So, what are the likely consequences for you personally? Has the sales director or your own manager spoken to you about it yet? I imagine they're not too pleased.
Not directly yet, but I have a rather ominous meeting scheduled with her and my own manager this afternoon. I know I made a big, stupid mistake, and I'm fully prepared to explain exactly what happened, offer no excuses, and apologize sincerely. There's absolutely no point trying to hide from it or downplay it now. I just have to go in there, take a deep breath, and face the music. Whatever disciplinary action they decide on, whether it's a formal warning or something more severe, I'll have to accept it.
Well, it certainly takes a good deal of courage and integrity to own up to a mistake of that magnitude, Mark. I sincerely hope the meeting isn't too awful or intimidating for you. Going in and proactively facing the music is definitely the right and most responsible thing to do, even if it's incredibly difficult and nerve-wracking.
That dialogue perfectly and quite vividly illustrates the idiom, doesn't it? Mark clearly knew he had made a serious professional mistake, and that he would inevitably have to face the music by attending a daunting meeting with his managers to accept full responsibility and the likely unpleasant but necessary consequences.
Exactly, Jack. The idiom beautifully captured his clear understanding that he couldn't avoid the repercussions of his error any longer and needed to confront them directly and honestly, even though it would undoubtedly be a very difficult and uncomfortable experience for him.
It's a very common and incredibly important idiom about personal and professional accountability, a concept we all encounter.
It certainly is. So the next time someone you know has to accept the unpleasant yet unavoidable consequences of their actions, remember this powerful idiom: they have to face the music.
And we'd be very interested to hear if you've ever had to face the music in a significant way. What was the situation? What were the stakes? And how did you handle it? Please feel free to share your experiences, only if you feel comfortable doing so, of course, in the comments section below the episode.
That's a wonderful idea, Jack, and a great way for our listeners to connect. Let's move on now to our third idiom in this insightful episode of Idiom Insights. This one is all about the fascinating human experience of changing your mind, or more profoundly, your feelings.
Our third idiom for today's exploration is have a change of heart.
Have a change of heart. Now, this phrase immediately suggests a really significant, perhaps even profound shift in someone's feelings, opinions, or intentions. What does it mean more precisely when someone has a change of heart, Jack?
You've got it exactly right once again, Emma. To have a change of heart means to alter your opinion, your fundamental attitude, or your deep-seated feelings about something or someone. This change often, though not always, leads to a corresponding change in your decision, your plans, or your subsequent behavior. It strongly implies a noticeable shift from a previously held viewpoint or emotional state to a new, often contrasting one.
So it's really about a fundamental, almost core-level alteration in your feelings, or your established way of thinking about a particular matter. For instance, if someone was absolutely set on selling their old family home, perhaps for practical reasons, but then after visiting it one last time and being flooded with childhood memories, they feel a sudden, overwhelmingly strong emotional connection and decide not to sell it after all, they have most definitely had a change of heart.
Precisely, Emma. That's a classic example. Or, imagine a manager who was initially very strict and unyielding about a particular company rule, enforcing it rigidly. But then, they observe how this rule negatively impacts employee morale and creativity, and after some reflection, they decide to relax or even abolish the rule. In that case, they too have had a change of heart. It suggests that new information, personal reflection, an empathetic response, or a significant emotional experience has caused them to genuinely rethink and revise their previous position or conviction.
It often, though not exclusively, implies a move towards a kinder, more compassionate, more lenient, or generally more positive stance or decision. However, the absolute key is the change in feeling or opinion itself, regardless of direction. It can sometimes come as a genuine surprise to others if someone suddenly and unexpectedly has a change of heart about a long-held belief, a cherished plan, or a deeply ingrained prejudice.
Yes, it can certainly be quite unexpected and sometimes baffling to observers. It's typically not just a minor adjustment in thinking or a slight modification of a plan, but a more significant, more profound shift in one's heart, which metaphorically represents their core feelings, their deepest convictions, or their fundamental stance on a particular matter.
So, to offer a simpler example, if a child was absolutely adamant that they detested a particular vegetable, say broccoli, and refused to even try it, but then they finally taste it, prepared in a delicious new way, and discover they actually quite like it, they've effectively had a change of heart about that specific vegetable.
Exactly, Emma. Their feelings, and consequently their behavior towards broccoli, have genuinely transformed.
So, to have a change of heart means to significantly change your opinion, your attitude, or your feelings about something or someone, and this change often leads to a different decision or a new course of behavior. Are you ready to hear Mia and Mark use this evocative idiom in their daily lives?
I certainly am. Let's listen in carefully. I wonder what important decision or strongly held opinion might be dramatically reversed in their story this time.
Mark, remember how our neighbors, the Smiths, were so incredibly vocally and strongly against ever getting a dog? They always said, quite emphatically, that they were cat people through and through, and that dogs were far too much work, too demanding, and unbearably messy. Mrs. Smith even said dogs smelled.
Oh yes, I remember Mrs. Smith being particularly firm and quite outspoken about that. She once told me, very seriously, that she could never, ever imagine having a dog in her immaculately clean house. Not in a million years, she said. Why, what's happened? Have they, by some miracle, changed their minds?
Well, Mark, you simply won't believe it. I saw them in the park yesterday afternoon, and they were actually walking the most adorable, fluffy little golden retriever puppy. Apparently, their two children had been relentlessly begging them for a dog for years and years, and it seems they finally caved in and agreed.
No way! The Smiths, of all people, got a puppy? So Mrs. Smith actually had a genuine change of heart about dogs after all that adamant refusal and those strong declarations? What happened to her solemn vow of never in my house? This is astonishing.
It certainly seems so. She told me, looking quite smitten, that when her daughter brought the tiny puppy home just to look after for a weekend for a friend who was supposedly going away, Mrs. Smith completely and utterly fell in love with it at first sight. She said the puppy just licked her face, wagged its tail, and melted her heart on the spot, and she simply couldn't bear the thought of letting it go. So, yes, she had a complete and total change of heart, and now they're incredibly proud, doting, and enthusiastic dog owners.
Well, that's a truly lovely and heartwarming story, Mia. It just goes to show that even the most firmly held opinions and steadfast resolutions can indeed change, sometimes quite dramatically. A cute, irresistible puppy can certainly persuade almost anyone to have a significant change of heart, it seems.
That dialogue perfectly and charmingly illustrates the idiom, doesn't it, Jack? Mrs. Smith, who was previously so strongly and vocally against the idea of having a dog, clearly had a profound change of heart after interacting directly with an adorable puppy. This emotional encounter led her to completely reverse her long-standing opinion and joyfully welcome a dog into her family and home.
Exactly, Emma. The idiom beautifully captured the significant, surprising, and quite unexpected shift in her deep-seated feelings and her ultimate decision, a change clearly driven by a powerful and irresistible emotional experience. It highlighted a complete and delightful turnaround in her previously unwavering stance.
It's a very common and wonderfully descriptive phrase for that kind of remarkable transformation in someone's opinion, feelings, or intentions.
It truly is. So, the next time someone you know significantly changes their mind, alters their feelings, or reverses a major decision about something important, you can accurately say they had a change of heart.
And of course, we'd love to hear from our listeners about a time you personally had a significant change of heart about something important in your life. What was it? And what powerful factor made you change your mind or feelings so dramatically? Please do share your fascinating stories in the comments section below this episode.
That's a wonderful invitation, Emma. Now, believe it or not, we've arrived at our fourth and final idiom for this packed episode of Idiom Insights. This particular one is all about the art and sometimes the peril of speaking without any prior preparation.
Indeed we have. Our final idiom for today's exploration, Jack, is the very useful phrase, off the cuff.
Off the cuff. This is an interesting and rather intriguing one, Emma. It sounds a little bit like off the top of your head, an idiom we discussed in a recent episode, which generally means giving a quick, spontaneous answer without much thought or checking. Is off the cuff very similar, or is there a subtle yet important difference between the two?
That's a great and very perceptive question, Jack, as they are indeed quite similar in conveying spontaneity. But there is a subtle and useful distinction. To say or do something off the cuff means to do it spontaneously, entirely without any prior preparation, rehearsal, or detailed planning. It very often refers to remarks, speeches, answers, or comments that are improvised on the spot and not read from notes, a prepared script, or teleprompter. The cuff in the idiom literally refers to the cuff of a shirt sleeve. The idea, or the supposed origin, is that in times past, people, especially public speakers, might quickly jot down a few brief notes or keywords on their shirt cuff to refer to if they were unexpectedly called upon to speak. So speaking off the cuff meant speaking without even those minimal, hastily scribbled notes, completely impromptu and unrehearsed.
Ah, that clarifies it beautifully. So, while off the top of your head often refers to recalling information or providing an answer quickly without detailed checking or deep thought, off the cuff more specifically emphasizes the complete lack of preparation for a more extended speech, a significant comment, a performance, or even an action. For instance, if a politician delivers an entire, coherent, and impactful speech without referring to any notes at all, and it sounds very natural, fluid, and spontaneous, they are definitely speaking off the cuff.
Precisely, Jack. That's a perfect illustration. Or if someone is unexpectedly asked to say a few words at a wedding reception or a birthday party, any remarks they make would, by necessity, be off the cuff, as they wouldn't have had any time whatsoever to prepare a formal speech or even gather their thoughts properly. It strongly implies improvisation and speaking from immediate thought and feeling rather than from a pre-planned, carefully constructed text.
It can certainly be a very positive attribute, Emma, clearly showing that someone is quick-witted, articulate, and knowledgeable enough to speak well and coherently without extensive preparation. However, it can also be quite risky, as off-the-cuff remarks, because they are unscripted, can sometimes be ill-considered, factually inaccurate, unintentionally inappropriate, or even offensive, because they haven't been thought through carefully or vetted beforehand.
Yes, there's definitely that important dual aspect to consider, Jack. An off-the-cuff joke, for example, might be absolutely brilliant and land perfectly, or it might fall completely flat, be misunderstood, or even cause unintended offense precisely because it wasn't premeditated or carefully considered for its potential impact. The idiom primarily highlights the spontaneous, unprepared nature of the utterance or action.
So, for another example, if a stand-up comedian is particularly skilled at interacting with the audience, taking their comments and seamlessly weaving them into their act to make spontaneous jokes, then a lot of their best and most memorable material might well be generated completely off the cuff.
Exactly, Jack. It's that unrehearsed, improvised, unprepared quality that defines an off-the-cuff performance or statement.
So, to do or say something off the cuff essentially means to do it spontaneously, on the spur of the moment, without any prior preparation or reliance on notes. Are you ready to hear Mia and Mark use this interesting idiom in their conversation?
I absolutely am. Let's listen in. I wonder who might be speaking without a script, or perhaps improvising in their particular scenario.
Mark, I was at that big industry conference last week, the one everyone was talking about, and the keynote speaker was the renowned Dr. Evans. Her prepared speech on future tech trends was absolutely excellent, incredibly insightful, meticulously well-researched, and delivered flawlessly.
Oh, Dr. Evans is truly brilliant. I've had the pleasure of hearing her speak before at a seminar. She's always so remarkably polished, incredibly professional, and extremely articulate. A real expert in her field.
She certainly was all of those things, but Mark, what really impressed me even more, if that's possible, was the Q&A session that followed her main address. People in the audience were asking her some really tough, complex, and quite unexpected questions about the long-term future of the industry, ethical considerations, and potential disruptions, things that definitely weren't explicitly covered in her prepared talk.
And how did she handle those, Mia? A live Q&A session can be incredibly tricky, especially if you're not fully prepared for those unexpected curveball questions that can come from anywhere, like...
She was absolutely amazing, Mark. She answered every single question thoughtfully, comprehensively, and with remarkable articulacy, even the really challenging, almost confrontational ones. And it was abundantly clear that her responses were completely off the cuff. She wasn't referring to any notes, not even a prompt card. She was just drawing effortlessly on her deep, extensive knowledge and clearly thinking very quickly on her feet. Her spontaneous, improvised answers were genuinely just as insightful, profound, and well-structured as her prepared speech. It was so incredibly impressive to watch her in action.
Wow, that really does sound exceptionally impressive. Being able to speak so eloquently, intelligently, and coherently, off the cuff on such complex and multifaceted topics, truly shows not only profound expertise and quick thinking, but also remarkable composure under pressure. Not many people can do that quite so well, especially in front of a large, critical audience.
That dialogue perfectly and vividly illustrates the idiom, doesn't it, Jack? Mia described with admiration how Dr. Evans skillfully and impressively answered tough, unexpected questions, spontaneously and entirely without notes during a challenging Q&A session, clearly highlighting that her incredibly insightful and articulate responses were delivered entirely off the cuff.
Exactly, Emma. The idiom powerfully emphasized the improvised, unrehearsed, and unprepared nature of Dr. Evans's truly impressive answers, showcasing her quick, agile thinking, her profound depth of knowledge, and her remarkable ability to communicate effectively under pressure.
It's a very common and highly descriptive phrase used to characterize spontaneous speech, an unplanned action, or an improvised performance.
It most certainly is. So the next time someone speaks eloquently or acts effectively and spontaneously, without any apparent prior preparation or notes, remember this useful idiom. They are doing it off the cuff.
And as always, we'd love to hear from our listeners. Are you personally good at speaking or performing off the cuff? Or do you generally prefer to be thoroughly well prepared for any public speaking or important interactions? Please do share your thoughts, preferences, and perhaps even a memorable experience in the comments section below this episode.
We always genuinely appreciate reading your insightful comments and diverse perspectives. Well, Emma, we've successfully explored 4 more really insightful, practical, and highly useful idioms in this engaging episode of Idiom Insights. It feels like we've covered a lot of ground.
We certainly have, Jack. It's been another fantastic session. Just to quickly recap for everyone tuning into Idiom Insights today, the 4 key idioms we learned and explored in detail are:
Firstly, every dog has its day, which is a proverb meaning that everyone, regardless of their current circumstances, will eventually have a moment of success, good fortune, or recognition.
Secondly, face the music, an idiom meaning to accept the unpleasant but often necessary consequences of your actions or mistakes, and to deal with them responsibly.
Thirdly, have a change of heart, which means to significantly change your opinion, your attitude, or your fundamental feelings about something or someone, often leading to a different decision or behavior.
And finally, off the cuff, meaning to speak or act spontaneously without any prior preparation, rehearsal, or reliance on notes or a script.
4 more absolutely fantastic and highly practical additions to your ever-expanding English idiom repertoire. And remember, listeners, the very best way to make these kinds of phrases a truly natural and instinctive part of your active vocabulary is to actively listen for them in real-life conversations, in movies, on TV, and in books. And then, crucially, to build your confidence by trying to use them yourself in appropriate and relevant contexts.
Absolutely, Jack. Don't ever be afraid to experiment with new language. The more you consciously use these idioms, the more comfortable and fluent your English will become. And the more effectively you'll be able to express nuanced meanings with real flair, precision, and a touch of personality. It really does make a difference.
And if you enjoyed learning with us today on Idiom Insights, and we sincerely hope that you did, please do consider giving this episode a like. And, if you have a moment, leaving us a positive review on your preferred podcast platform. Your invaluable support truly helps us reach more dedicated English learners around the world and enables us to continue creating this educational content for you.
And please, make sure you hit that subscribe or follow button for Idiom Insights so you don't miss out on any of our future episodes where we'll continue to unravel, explain, and enjoy the wonderful, witty, and sometimes quite perplexing world of English idioms together. There are always more to discover.
Thank you all so very much for joining us today. It's truly been a genuine pleasure exploring these fascinating and useful phrases with you, our wonderful listeners.
Keep learning, keep listening with enthusiasm, and we'll look forward to talking to you again next time on another episode of Idiom Insights.
Goodbye for now, everyone. Take care.
See ya. Bye-bye.